How you doing, everybody? I'm Ken Bykoff from Peegs.com, Indiana. Had some big news go down on Friday afternoon as Devine running back with back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons, declares for the NFL draft, as does linebacker Marcus Oliver, who announces his intentions to leave the program to go into the NFL draft as well. Now, we're going to start with Devine Redding, back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons. He's been a solid running back for the Hoosiers in the past couple of years. However, with Redding, it's important to remember that the year before, when he hit 1,000 yards rushing behind Jordan Howard, that about half of his yards came in the final 3 games of the season, and a quarter of the yards came in the Pinstripe Bowl. So that was a 1,000-yard season that certainly was useful for the Hoosiers, but it's one to where it wasn't a consistent week-over-week performance by Devine. This past season, it was much of the same thing. Redding would get yards, but it wasn't. He wasn't the most consistent back. Sometimes he had trouble holding on to the football, and it was basically he was the best option that the Hoosiers had, so he got the bulk of the carries. Now, next season, that's not necessarily would have been the case. Camion Patrick is a guy that the coaching staff has been very, very high on, and he's somebody that the Hoosiers really look to as being a guy who could run the football and be the featured back next season. And I think that Devine Redding certainly saw the writing on the wall. So with back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons in his pocket and not losing his job to another back on his resume, Devine Redding is headed to the NFL, and we certainly wish him luck. But the bottom line is he was going to be fighting an uphill battle to be the starting featured running back next season anyway, so he decided to make the jump. On the other side of the football, Marcus Oliver, linebacker, redshirt junior, he decides he's headed to the NFL draft. And with Oliver, he's a guy who has had an injury in his career that cost him some time, and so he's already has that on his resume. Then you throw in the fact that he's probably due to graduate this spring because he, again, redshirt junior means that he's a senior by class. And so he can move in, start to move on. And the bottom line is, I don't know that if he came back as a senior, he was really going to build his tape that much more. And so it makes sense for him to make a move now. Now, for both of these players, I don't necessarily know that they are going to be somebody who are really highly sought after, that their stock is not somebody to where you really peg them as being guys that were going to be high NFL draft picks. Oliver certainly has a linebacker's body, and he certainly has the skills to play at the next level, but he's going to have to convince a lot of people that he can do it on a consistent basis. And so it's going to be important for him to have a good series of workouts. And the same goes with Devine Redding, who also, again, is going to face some questions about his ability to hold on to the football sometimes, which cropped up its head. He wasn't a Butterfingers, but he did fumble more than you really want to see, especially at the college level. For both of these guys going forward, if they get to the next level, just getting stronger is going to be really important, and making sure that they play with consistency week in, week out is going to be critical. So the Hoosiers take a little bit of a hit on both sides of the ball today as two talented players head on to the NFL draft, but the Hoosiers still find themselves in good shape in terms of who they have remaining. Again, I mentioned Camion Patrick at that running back position. He's somebody that the fans are very, very excited about. And IU is very deep in terms of running backs. On the defensive side of the ball at linebacker, Tigray Scales, unless he decides to make a jump, is somebody that the Hoosiers certainly can build around, and there is some decent talent at linebacker on the defensive side of the ball. So the Hoosiers seem prepared to kind of absorb these hits, but this is the kind of thing that you want to see when you have a program that is put together back-to-back bowl seasons, that has been successful and starting to build some success. This is what happens to successful programs. So the Hoosiers certainly are going to be taking a little bit of a lump in terms of having to move on from some players, but it's also somewhat of a positive and is something that certainly can be sold to recruits by new head coach Tom Allen. That's all we have for a Friday afternoon, but for Peegs.com, I'm Ken Bykoff.